Hi, I'm Adina Fredman. I am a member of the Executive Kollel at Yeshivat Maharat, class of 2022, and I teach in the Beit Midrash program at Yeshivat Maharat. Welcome to Maharat 10 Days of Torah. What is the Jewish response to impending danger? In the fourth chapter of Megillah Esther, we see two different yet complementary responses. The Megillah tells us that when Mordechai hears of the evil decree of Haman, Lashmid, laharogu, la'abed, et kol hayudim, minar vad zaken, taf v'nashim b'yom echad, to utterly kill and destroy all of the Jews of Persia, young and old, women and children, in one day, his initial response is one of anguish, of mourning. Vaykrad b'gadav, vayilbash sak va'efer, vayitzei b'toch ha'ir, vayizak, zakah, gidolah, umara. He tore his clothing, and he dressed in sackcloth and ashes. He walked around the city, crying great, bitter cries. Queen Esther in her palace, of course, is oblivious to what has transpired. When she hears that her beloved uncle Mordechai is wearing sackcloth, her initial response is to send a change of clothing, but he refuses. Mordechai informs Esther of the terrible decree, and he commands her to go to the king and plead for her people. Esther, of course, reminds Mordechai that anyone who approaches the king without being summoned faces immediate execution. Notwithstanding the danger, Mordechai warns Esther that she too is in danger, and she will suffer the same fate as the other Jews. And then we have the most famous verse, Umi yodea im le'et kazot higad lamalchut, and who knows, maybe you attained your royal position exactly for this time. Mordechai is demonstrating the response of a Jewish communal leader. He expresses his personal anguish, but his main concern is to assess the situation and find a practical, political solution. When the situation is dire, he comes up with a radical idea. It is fraught with danger, but may be the only way to save the Jewish people. This is a risk Mordechai is willing to take. Esther reacts differently. I imagine this young woman who has been living for 4 years in essentially a gilded cage, far removed from her community. The date is Yud Gimel Nisan, right before Pesach. She is undoubtedly feeling how distant she has become from her community and her traditions. At that moment, Mordechai reminds her that her fate is tied to the fate of all the Jews of Persia. And her response is, Lech knose kol hayudim, hanimtzeim b'Shushan, v'tsumu alai, al tochlu v'al tishtu shloshet yamim laila v'yom. Go and gather all the Jews in Shushan, and fast for me for 3 days. Esther's instinct is to reach out to the community. Salvation requires not just the acts of a brave queen, but the involvement of the entire community. The prayers and fasting of all the Jews of Shushan are crucial for her dangerous mission to succeed. As we know, Esther succeeds by following Mordechai's direction. I imagined that as she prepares to enter the Chatzar HaMelech, the courtyard of the king, she is thinking of her fellow Jews who are gathered praying and fasting on her behalf. At the end of the Megillah, the need for both of these responses is recognized. Mordechai is personally rewarded for his leadership of the Jewish people, and Esther's stature in the royal household is acknowledged. The Jewish community has also been strengthened. The Megillah uses the word lahakel, to come together as a kahal, as a community, 3 times in describing the Jews and their battles against their enemies. We are all aware that God, who is not mentioned at all in the Megillah, performed the miracles of the victory. But this miracle required the Jewish people to come together as a kahal and to recognize their mutual responsibilities. Finally, Mordechai and Esther create the holiday of Purim in commemoration of their salvation. And how is this miracle to be commemorated? By a communal rejoicing. Yemei mishteh v'simcha, bishloch manot ish l're'ehu, u'matanot levyonim. Days of feasting and joy, of sending gifts one to another, and charity to the poor. Purim does not only celebrate the actions of the individuals, Esther, Mordechai, and the brave Jews who fought their enemies. It celebrates the community that came together to meet the challenge of its destruction and ultimately emerged stronger, united, and committed. I hope that today on Ta'anit Esther, you are remembering that sometimes bold actions by individuals are the necessary response to tragedy. And I hope that tomorrow, on Purim, you will celebrate the miracle with your family and your community. Chag Purim Sameach from Jerusalem.